Welcome to podcasts recorded live at the Center for Spiritual Living in Portland, Oregon. We have many programs, classes, and workshops developed just for our online audience. To find out more, go to our website at cslportland.org and look under the Online tab. Our mission is to open hearts, ignite minds, and make a difference. If you'd like to support our center and its video podcasts, you can donate online at cslportland.org/donate. Allow us to become part of your extended spiritual community. Wherever you are on your spiritual journey, you are most welcome at the Center for Spiritual Living.
Good morning, and welcome to the Portland Center for Spiritual Living Facebook Live service. We are a science of mind community that teaches spiritual principles to transform your life and make the world a better place. Wherever you are on your spiritual journey, you are welcome here. All we ask is that you stay open to the possibility of changing your entire life simply by changing your mind. I'm Reverend Marilyn Sprague. I serve as the Director of Education and Virtual Outreach here at the Center, and it is truly an honor and a privilege to welcome you here this morning. If you're new to the center, I invite you to find out more about us on our website, cslportland.org. Under the About Us menu tab, you'll find a lot of information about who we are, what we stand for, and how we might serve you. The website also gives details about the various activities at the center, and you can sign up to receive a weekly email listing of our events and services. I would like to highlight several of our announcements. First of all, Sunday service, Facebook Live today is at 11, and our services are also posted on YouTube and podcast. Our Wednesday evening meditation is via Zoom at 7 p.m. on Wednesday night, and practitioner Kathy Batten will be hosting this week's meditation. The theme is Connect with Everything, Everywhere. There's Friday's lunch with Reverend Larry. Lunch is optional. This again is via Zoom, and it is scheduled for this Friday at 11:30 on Zoom. And of course, the links are all on our website. We also have an online Zoom group for our Social Justice Book Club and our 12-step program. And we've just opened up registration for 2 summer classes, and you can register online at cslportland.org. And so the 2 classes that are being offered, one is a certificated class, so if you're thinking about joining the practitioner journey, then this would account for one of the prerequisites. It's Essential Ernest Holmes. I'm facilitating that. It's on Tuesdays. It's a 10-week class, starts July 13th through September 14th. From 5 to 8 p.m. Pacific time. And in this online class, Ernest Holmes' quiet devotional writings, as well as his impassioned teachings for future leaders, is what is focused on. His love of people and the facility for seeing past problems, and it blends with a modern psychology with our ability to make conscious mental choices for a better life. So we're focusing on the founder of Science of Mind. We're also offering a class more on Emma Curtis Hopkins. And many of you may know that Emma Curtis Hopkins is referred to as the metaphysical teacher of teachers because she taught so many of the individuals who founded movements such as Science of Mind by Ernest Holmes. So anyway, this class is facilitated by licensed practitioner Kate Barrett and myself. It's 8 weeks. It's on a Thursday evening starting July 22nd through September 9th from 5 to 8 p.m. And again, as I mentioned, Emma Curtis Hopkins is referred to as the metaphysical teacher of teachers. And through readings, discussion, and experiential exercises, this online spiritual study course features lessons 7 through 12 of Emma's 12 Lessons in Truth. So I invite you to join. I invite you to go to our website and sign up for one or both. Also, on Monday evenings, we're continuing our Mirific Mondays, Therapeutic Laughter. So it's Go for Joy, Mirific Mondays. And it's tomorrow at 4:30, and you can still go online and register, and then you'll receive the Zoom link. So it's from 4:30 to 5:30, and it is part of our Go for Joy virtual ministry designed to heal and inspire through the use of therapeutic laughter. So I welcome you. We've had a lot of fun the last 3 weeks, so I welcome you to join us. And let's see, what else do we have going on? Oh, this is big. This is a big announcement. Many of us have been asking, when are we reopening? When are we reopening? Well, we've been planning for some time. We've had a visioning team in place, and we've now set the date for June 13th. Yes, we'll be organizing the sanctuary to make things as safe as possible. Yes, the in-person opening will be designed for fully vaccinated people as permitted by the Oregon Health Authority. And yes, we'll continue to have our Facebook Live broadcasts for people who would prefer to stay at home or who live remotely. We'll be sending out more information in an email and update our website with all the pertinent details. But mark your calendar, June 13th, 11 a.m. service, the sanctuary is opening. And at this time, I'd like to call upon Reverend Larry with a special Memorial Day message.
Thank you, Reverend Marilyn. It's always a great honor for me to do a short presentation in honor of those who've served in the armed forces for us. This year I found a lovely poem of Robert Frost. I say lovely, but of course I think it speaks more in a more heartfelt way around some of the troubles that go along with serving in the armed forces. Anyway, though, I offer this as a tribute to anyone who has served in our U.S. military or in any of the armed conflicts that are going on. It's titled Not to Keep by Robert Frost. They sent him back to her. The letter came saying, and she could have him. And before she could be sure that there was no hidden ill under the formal writing, he was in her sight, living. They gave him back to her alive. How else? They are not known to send the dead, and not disfigured visibly his face, his hands. She had to look. She had to ask, what was it, dear? And she had given all, and still she had all. They had been lucky. Wasn't she glad now? Everything seemed won, and all the rest for them permissible ease. But she had to ask, what was it, dear? Enough, he replied, yet not enough. A bullet through and through, high in the breast. Nothing but what good care and medicine and rest, and you for a week, dear, can cure me of, but to go again. The same grim doing to do over again for them both. She dared no more than to ask him with her eyes, how was it for him for a second trial? And with his eyes, he asked her not to ask. They had given him back to her, but not to keep, not now.
Thank you, Reverend Larry. And in this weekend, we remember all who have fallen in service protecting our freedom. And I invite you to be on our mailing list. Details for signing up are on the right-hand side of our homepage, cslportland.org. Enter your name and email on the button of the right-hand sidebar. And that weekly email is filled, or that daily email is filled with a affirmation and a special note on spiritual principle from Reverend Larry, and it's so inspirational, so I encourage you to sign up. And a special thank you to Kat Jacobs for our lovely floral arrangement honoring this holiday weekend. And our special music today is Kellie Jones. We welcome her into the sanctuary. And we also have the delight of our own Paulette Holly that's going to be leading the meditation music and the congregational singing. So sit back, relax, because I know that somewhere between the music, the meditation, and the message is exactly what your heart came to receive.
God is, I am, right here, right now, right here, right now. God is, I am, God is.
And in this now moment, bringing our full attention and our full awareness to right here, right now. Letting go of all the busyness, any technical challenges if there were any, just letting that all go. And settling in, recognizing that one power, the one presence, the one mind of infinite intelligence. It is the creator and sustainer of all that is seen and all that is unseen, and I choose to call it God. And there is nothing outside of this one presence and this one power. It is peace. It is unity. It is oneness. And I know I am of it. My life is an individualized expression of the one. Every aspect of my life, a simple expression of the one, an individualized, unique expression of the one. I am a center point. My life is a center point in the one mind. And as this is true of me, it is true of each person who hears this prayer. Each person, an individualized center point in the one mind, a mini universe, fully expressing that individualized expression of the one. And so I claim and affirm and I speak my word for and about our service and for each person here today. I claim and affirm Reverend Larry as an instrument of truth as he shares the Sunday message. Again, the one mind flowing in, through, and as Reverend Larry's mind as he delivers the message. Our musicians bringing inspiration and uplifting our hearts. Again, individualized expressions of the one. And for each person, I claim and affirm an openness to the unity, the harmony, the oneness that is the truth of all life. That oneness brings forth the peace that resides within. And from that calm place, from that center within, that altar of the Most High that resides within, that all-knowingness that resides within, from that place of peace and calm and serenity is an expression of all one's activities, remembering the oneness, that there is only one of us here, each expressing in an individualized way. And from this place of peace, coming forth with unity, harmony, cooperation, and an individualized expression of love. And I am so grateful for this truth that God is all there is. God is the peace, the love, the harmony, the oneness, expressing as each individual. And I place this word into the activity and action of the law, knowing that the law always responds with yes, my beloved. And so it is already done in spirit. And together we say, and so it is. And as we go into this short meditation, I invite you to go within where that peace, that harmony resides.
than to lay down my fears, lay down in happiness and surrender to the peace I choose today. Peace is the gift that I get today. No easy shortcut, peace is the way. I will lay down my pride, lay down self-righteousness and surrender to the peace I choose today. My all I give, my love for all, my all I give, my love for peace is the reason we're here today. No accident, we've been called by name, called to lay down our lives, stand up for greater good, and surrender to the peace we choose today. Peace we choose today. Peace we breathe. Peace we live today. Peace today. Peace today.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Kellie. What a pleasure. Happy Sunday, everyone. So glad you've chosen this time to join us. We're working our way through. Actually, we're reaching the end of this lovely book of Marilyn Mills called One World and One Heart. And she ends the book with a couple chapters on what she calls the Peaceful Revolution. And I want to talk to you, first of all, some examples or what a peaceful revolution might look like. But then I also want to spend a few minutes talking about the metaphysics behind it and how we might experience a personal peaceful revolution in our lives. So last week I talked about a personal commitment to inclusivity. The author Marilyn Mills made it clear that inclusivity requires us to invite even the invisible people into our lives, even those people that we may have trouble treating as friends. Nonetheless, we invite them into our lives. We also focused on the relationships of our lives rather than a destination. And you'll remember I talked about the difference between being on a path together versus the importance of some outside goal. The goals may come and go, but the people of our lives are there to be cherished. And that was a real practice for us to look at the people around us rather than some arbitrary goal. Sometimes the goals may change, but those people are going to be with us. Well, this week, as we finish out this series, we're going to look at this idea of unity from yet another angle. We're going to put our metaphysical training to bear on how to achieve this idea of peace and even friendship in the midst of disharmony and suspicion. Okay, so I have a quiz, a very short quiz, a historical quiz for you. Does anyone have a memory of what they were doing on November 10th, 1989. Now, I know there are some of you out there that are saying, well, I wasn't even born yet, so you'll have to bear with me. But some of us who are a little older than that, what were you doing on November 10th, 1989? I remember it vividly. I was on assignment in Denver, Colorado with a telephone company, and I was in the middle of a computer conversion. I was in one of those old-fashioned today computer room settings with the raised floor and everything white and big banks of computers. And someone rushed in with the news of what had happened that day. We all stopped work and we told stories about the Cold War. So it was the Berlin Wall coming down on that day, right? And many of us of that era were born with the idea of needing fallout shelters. We were born with the idea of duck and cover if the A-bombs should fall. The whole idea of us not being safe in our own homes, in our own lives, because there was this looming potential for the world to end at the push of a button. And that the symbol, I think, of the Berlin Wall coming down was almost a sigh of relief. Even those of us who scarcely knew the precepts around why the wall was built and things like that. Nonetheless, on that day, almost a universal celebration. And what is interesting is it was a revolution that was entirely peaceful. In the book that we're finishing this month, she talks about it in some detail about how the city officials went around this. And in fact, there's a story going around that part of the reason that it was so peaceful was that the mayor of the town, in a speech, actually skipped over part of his speech that was going to be somewhat more inflammatory and perhaps insightful. And he literally lost his place in his own speech and instead went to the bottom, which was more reconciliatory and more peaceful and joyous. But she also points out in the book something that not too many historians do bring to light, and something that I did a little research on my own. And part of that peaceful revolution actually started at one of the Lutheran churches in East Berlin. And the pastor of that church had an idea that change could happen without conflict being necessary. And one of the first things that he wanted to do was to unify the German people in Berlin. And so traditionally there, the churches were kind of divided up between the rebels and the sympathizers, if you know what I mean, the people who wanted the communist regime and those who didn't. And so you would hang out in the church that was more the flavor of what you believed in, right? This somewhat radical minister went out and put a sign in the lawn that said, "All are welcome here." And he meant it. He meant that everyone was welcome there, despite what their opinions were, despite perhaps their closely held views around whether communism or more the Westerly way of life was appropriate. He invited them all in. He did readings from the Beatitudes on how peacefulness is important in the world, around how we can make a change in our lives. And he highlighted the unity of the people who would come for those meditative services. After a while, it became known as a place where you could go and speak your mind, and what, in that Cold War period, oftentimes you would feel uneasy, as though perhaps the East German police might be there listening and trying to decide if you were one of the dissenters. And it was like a free opinion zone. Well, week after week, it started out with only a few people attending, but week after week it grew and it grew. The sanctuary held about 700 people, and as it was approaching this time when the wall was going to be torn down, they started packing in a couple thousand people who were there to rally around this idea of unity and peace. And then when the mayor made his mistake, or perhaps on purpose altered his speech, basically saying that Checkpoint Charlie and the other places around the city where you could enter with the proper with the proper documents, he basically says it's just an open city today. And so one of the first things that people did, without any unifying effort or anything, people came and showed up with their little pickaxes and their hammers and chisels. They wanted a piece of that wall. And within just a few weeks, the wall itself had disappeared and showed up in curiosity shops. What a lovely metaphor for the Cold War, to simply end up as pieces of rubble in a curiosity shop. Now, you might ask, what are the metaphysics around a peaceful revolution? And in fact, we can personalize this a little bit. Sometimes I get asked, what does God have in store for us? What does God want me to experience? And I do think sometimes people take that idea too literally. They'll think that God maybe has a plan for them in terms of you should go and do this and you should go and be this. And I don't think that God has plans for us in that way. That would be more like kismet or some other form of divine plan. But I do know that God wants to experience the world through us. And so would God wish us to be miserable? Would God wish us to experience the confines or the poverty that we see in the world today? I don't think so. I think God wants to see more of what it stands for in the world and to see that through us. And so therefore, I do think that God wishes us to experience the good life, to experience peace, to experience love, because that's what it gets to experience through us. And so the metaphysics of something like a peaceful revolution is that God wants the good to come on the other side of that revolution. God wants to see the openness, the freedom, the joy, the peace. And God, of course, will back up those intentions. When it sees a peaceful momentum, God is right there with the resources necessary, the time necessary, right? Because it wants to experience more of that through us. When we say God is love, that's part of the impetus then of God, right? To see more love. When we say that God is peace or God is abundance or any of those lovely qualities that we attribute to God, it's not only a quality of God, but it's God desiring to have more of that. And the way it does that in the human realm is through us. So when we become more peaceful, when we become more loving, when we set about our own peaceful revolution, we're not doing it by ourselves. We have the full force of the divine on our side. And that's how something like that wall in East Berlin can come down. It doesn't take but more than a few people that have that as their intention, that can see that, can taste that, and then the full forces of the divine will be brought to bear. And suddenly 2,000 people are congregating in a 700-person church, right? With the idea of peace, with the idea of unity. And whether it's someone who reads a speech poorly or whether they change their mind on purpose, what I know is the gates are flung open and the world changes for the better. Well, I also want to talk about bringing a peaceful revolution into your own life, and I think I need to start with a joke for that. So during the Northern Irish conflict, a Jewish man gets stopped at a checkpoint by two Irishmen with rifles. Hey, what are you, Protestant or Catholic? Well, the fellow answers, I'm Jewish. Big pause. The two guards confer with each other, do some more conferring. Eventually, they get on a walkie-talkie and talk to someone back at headquarters. Finally, they go back to question the fellow again. Is that Jewish Catholic or Jewish Protestant? And so that's my question for you. How often have you organized your life so that there are only two possible answers? You see, that is the source, I think, of all of our conflict. And whether it's in the macrocosm, whether it's the world divided up by people who believe A or believe B, or whether it's something personal and you're sitting around your own dining room table and suddenly it's either you believe A or you believe B, and there's not going to be peace in the house until there's an agreement around whether it is A or whether it is B. I'm here to tell you, usually the answer isn't A or B. Usually the answer is somewhere in between. Usually the answer is almost a higher perspective, a metaphysical perspective. The answer is probably love. The answer is probably harmony. The answer is probably abundance. The questions that we grapple with here on the earth are the implementation of those goals. And obviously there will be different opinions about it. But if we approach them as opinions and instead strive towards that higher principle, I think we can come to a middle ground. You know, I sometimes do couples counseling, and I remember a few years back I had a couple who was, oh my gosh, they were having very strong words for each other. Even in the counseling session, they were calling each other names, and it had to do with ideas of how to raise their own children. One of them was very much a devotee of the idea of kind of free-range children, the idea that, you know, with some basic parameters, children will self-govern themselves, and it's okay if they're out riding their bicycles. It's okay if they don't have firm curfews. You know, their own sense of self-preservation, their own good sense, the ideas and ideals that we've taught them will prevail. They're relatively safe. That's the idea that one of them was promoting. The other one was promoting quite the opposite. No, they're not even safe in our yard. That's why houses have fences, to keep the bad people away from our children. They need to be supervised all the time. They need to be driven to soccer practice. You know, they have to have a very narrow range until they're old enough, until they're adults and can really choose for themselves. So that was the kind of A or B, right? That was going into this couple who were really kind of at war in their own relationship around how their children should be raised. So where is the middle ground here? The middle ground is knowing safety for your children. The middle ground is harmony. And when we approach things from those essential truths, styles in child rearing will come and will go. The world will ebb and flow with the idea of safety and how to raise children. But the truth is, they both wanted wholeness for their children. They both wanted peace in their family. And it wasn't until we went to that higher principle that we began seeing that there were a place of middle ground, a way in which the two of them could raise their children in ways that felt safe without being quite so restrictive. A place of freedom and yet also safety. So here's what I would like to see us explore in our own lives. I would bet that everyone within the hearing of my voice has some kind of a conflict going on. Sometimes minor, sometimes not so minor. Sometimes it involves conflict at work. Sometimes it involves conflict in our own homes. Sometimes it involves conflict with our friends or with business propositions. But what I do know is that we have an option of being right or ultimately being happy. Have you ever heard it described that before? Sometimes we're so sure of our own way, our own how, our own idea of exactly how things should be done, that we will sacrifice everything in order to be right. It's like it's the principle of the thing. It's what I know is true for me. It's simply the right thing to do, and I will devastate everyone within my field of vision in order to come out on top, by golly, by gosh, right? And you will almost see people tear down their own lives because of a belief. I'd like to suggest that so many of our beliefs are no more than strongly held opinions. And if we truly believe that each of us has a spark of the divine within us, that each one of us is acting on behalf of Spirit in some way, if we believe in that unity of all things, then what I know is that your opinion should be just as valuable, just as honored as my opinion. And I certainly do get to act out my life based on what I believe to be true, but I also need to have room for you to do the same. Is it more important for me to be right, or can I hold out instead for happiness, for me to be right for me and you to be right for you? When we look at that, the tearing down of the Berlin Wall, that was really the invitation that pastor of the church made by putting the sign out on the lawn that said, everyone is welcome here. And it's also the message that we had last week, if you remember, when we talked about everyone being invited to the table. That includes everyone's opinions as well as everyone. Can we look above how you might implement your life and how I might implement my life and come to a place of ease and grace with each other? Cannot we be friends with differing opinions? So, some more ideas about this managing the peaceful revolution in our own lives. You know, one of the things that I like to think allowed that wall in Berlin to coming down was that people were standing for something rather than against something. They were standing for a unified Berlin. They were standing for the idea of their friends and their neighbors, literally a few hundred yards across a wall. They were standing for the idea that those people could come together in freedom and in joy. And it almost mattered less around whether that was under some system called communism or some system called capitalism or some system with some entirely different name, some construct of how things ought to be. It was that heartfelt sense of standing for friendship, of standing for unity. And that, I believe, was what brought down the wall. That they all were standing for something that God stands for. I also wonder about this idea of aligning yourself with one of those qualities of God. I think it's pretty unshakable when you stand for peace, when you stand for love, when you stand for abundance. I swear, it's as though the path just parts before you. I wonder if somehow Moses had that involved in the parting of the Red Sea. He so clearly stood for that illumination and that sense of freedom that the Jewish people would have, that literally the waters parted, right? That's my own observation when I stand for love. Everything unlike love simply skitters away. When I stand for peace, it's difficult for people to talk disharmony and trouble with me because I'm basking in that glow, that spiritual glow of peace. So back to that idea of conflict in your personal lives. Have you had the opportunity to stand for something? And in particular, can you align it with one of those qualities of God? So for instance, let's say you're having trouble at work and you feel that maybe your business is not providing the level of customer satisfaction that it ought to be. Can you see that one of the qualities of Spirit is love? That one of the qualities of Spirit is order? If you stand for love and for order, there is no way that the universe can say, oh, no. What we want here is more chaos, right? There's no way that something can come against that and not be moved by it. Perhaps not immediately, perhaps not in the way that you would expect, but when you stand for something, when you really change yourself even in a way to stand for something on high, people will see that. They will be drawn to it. And that peaceful revolution will begin. Well, let me summarize a little bit about what we've talked about today. Today our theme was the peaceful revolution, making sure that everyone is welcome through a peaceful celebration and cohabitation of a variety of points of view. You know, we're getting started. We're getting ready to open our center again. And of course, still as the pandemic is underway, a lot of controversy around mask wearing, around vaccinations, around minimum safe distances, around whether we can trust the CDC. Of course, here at the center, we're going to follow the Oregon Health Authority. One of the tenets of our beliefs is we, of course, follow local laws and regulations, but everyone is welcome here. For the vaccinated, we'll welcome them in person. For the people who are choosing not to be vaccinated, we'll welcome them online. There is a place for you here, and your opinions are welcome. Do you see how we make allowances for our differences even as we celebrate the unity of all life? We also talked about today something that Ernest Holmes called the Law of Reciprocity. That being what we put out will be returned to us. It's one of the best arguments that I have ever heard for the idea of a peaceful revolution. If I don't put out peace, I'm going to get back what I do put out. If I put out violence, I can expect violence back. If I put out disharmony and trouble, you can know that that's what I'm going to be seeing a lot of in my own life. And the law of reciprocity says it tends to even be magnified. So if I'm a little snooty, I can expect even more snootiness back my way. If I'm a little bit angry, you can expect that anger to even have a higher level when it's reflected back at me. And so I invite us all to stand for something rather than against something. I usually close with a quote from the book and a prayer. Today I'm going to do something a little bit different. You know, Ernest Holmes, the founder of Science of Mind, was famous for showing up once a year at a retreat center that we call Asilomar. And back in 1959, he gave one of his final addresses before his passing. It's called the Sermon by the Sea, and I want to read a piece of it because I think it fits so well with what we've been talking about today. This is from Sermon by the Sea, Ernest Holmes, 1959. He says, "Find me one person who is for something and against nothing, who is redeemed enough not to condemn others out of burden of their soul, and I will find you another Savior, another Jesus, and an exalted human being. Find me one person who no longer has any fear of the universe, or of God, or of humanity, or of anything else, and you will have brought to me someone in whose presence we may sit, and fear shall vanish. Find me someone who has redeemed their own soul, and they can become my Redeemer. Find me someone who has given that all that they have in love without morbidity, and I will have found the lover of my soul too. Is this not true? Why? because they will have revealed to me the nature of God and provided to me the possibility of all human souls. This is what religious science stands for. Let us pray. There is one power, one presence, one life, one wholeness, one abundance, one love, one peace, only this one thing. I call it God. And what I know about it is that it is everywhere present, in, around, and through everyone on this planet. All are welcome to the table that is so lavishly prepared. It is God welcoming us unto its own. And so for today, I celebrate that unity of all life. I celebrate all of our many opinions. I celebrate the idea that though we are individuals, we make up something way more glorious that can ever be seen through individual eyes. This life, this joy, this peace, this love. I'm grateful for this certain knowledge of the unity of all life. I'm grateful to be here in the presence of love. I let it be, and together we say, and so it is. Thank you so much for being here today, and happy Memorial Day. Now is our time of conscious giving. I invite you, if you like, to take your gift in your hand, perhaps go to your computer or handheld device. I know many of you are logging on to cslportland.org/donate. There are a variety of ways, of course, that you can contribute to our worldwide ministry, and I thank you for that. It has been a great sustainer during this pandemic. And even as we're looking forward to welcoming people back into the sanctuary, please know that you are always welcome to remain with us online. We're here for you. But gosh, I think it's time for some more wonderful music. Kellie, would you like to come up and bless us with another song?
For years I would talk about how I wanted to change the world, but I always left it up to someone else to do. Then I finally realized I needed to take a stand, and that by changing my thinking I could change my life. That's how I could change the world. So let there be peace. I am a stand for peace. Let there be love. I am a stand for love. Let there be joy. I am a stand for joy. We are making a new world now. Let there be peace. Let there be love. I am a stand for love. Let there be joy. I am a stand for joy. We are making a new world now. Let there be peace. I am a stand for peace. Let there be love. I am a stand for love. Let there be joy. We are making a new world now. Let there be peace. I am a stand for peace. Let there be love. I am a stand for love. Let there be joy. I am a stand for joy. We are making a new world now. Let there be peace. I'm a stand for peace, joy. I am a stand for joy. I am a stand. We are making a new world now. Let there be peace. I am a stand for peace. Let there be love. joy. We are making a new world now. Let there be peace. I am a stand for peace. Let there be love. I am a stand for love. Let there be joy. I am a stand for joy. We are making a new world now. Let there be peace. I am a stand for peace. Let there be love. I am a stand for love. Let there be joy. I am a stand for joy. We are making a new world now. I know, making a new world now. I see, we are making a new world now.
Thank you for being with us today, Kellie. Just a quick reminder before we close. You know, we sing about love, we sing about joy, we sing about peace. What I know, though, is some people are experiencing less than that. If I'm describing you, please know that we're here to support you in prayer. You can go to our website at cslportland.org. At the bottom of any of our web pages, there's a link for submitting our prayer request. As soon as you send that off, it goes to all 10 of our licensed practitioners and ministers, and it's our truly great pleasure to pray with you throughout the week. So please know we're here to provide that level of support for you. And you can submit those requests anytime, day or night. They're automatically mailed out to the entire prayer group, and many of us just start praying right away. So please take advantage of that. I think it's time, though, to invite Paulette back up, and we'll have our closing song. Thank you, Paulette.
I am love, I am loving, I am love. I am love, I am loving, I am love. It's the truth of who I am when I forget. Spirit reminds me again. I am love, I am loving, I am love. You are love, you are loving, you are love. You are love, you are loving, you are love. It's the truth of who you are. Shine your light near, yes, near and far. You are love, you are loving, you are love. We are love, we are loving, we are love. We are love, we are loving, we are loved. It's the truth of who we are. Shine our light near, yes, near and far. We are love, we are loving, we are loved. You are love, you are loving, you are loved. I am love, I am loving, I am love.
If you happen to be in the Portland, Oregon area, we'd love to have you visit in person. The Portland Center for Spiritual Living is located at 6211 Northeast Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. We have inspirational services at 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. every Sunday. We also have many programs, classes, and workshops developed just for our online audience. To find out more, go to our website at cslportland.org and look under the Online tab. We have a variety of content dedicated specifically for our online listeners. Our mission is to open hearts, ignite minds, and make a difference. If you'd like to support our center, you can donate online at cslportland.org/donate. Our website is also the place to learn more about what's going on at the center or to contact us. Allow us to become part of your extended spiritual community. Wherever you are on your spiritual journey, you are most welcome at the Center for Spiritual Living.